Magandang araw, students! Now, we are done with our Module 12 and Module 13, and now let's move on to our new lesson, Module 14, with a lesson title of Process Selection and Facility Layout. We have a lesson objectives. Number 1, name the two main factors that influence process selection, and 2, compare the four basic processing types. But before we start, let me introduce myself. I am Monica Faith K. Dalim, and I will be discussing to you the What I Know chart part 1. Let us first know what is process selection. So, process selection is to decide on the way production of goods or services will be recognized. What is variety? Variety is the quality or state of being different or diverse. The third one is what is volume? Volume refers to how much production of a specific product is required to satisfy its overall demand in the market.
Good day everyone. So I'm Christy Jarsketa and I'm here to discuss the some part of Activity 2 content notes. To start, let us define what is process selection. So based sa ating module, a process selection refers to the ways organizations choose to produce or provide their goods and services. It involves choice of technology, type of processing, and so on. These choices have important implications for capacity planning, layout of facilities, equipment choices, and the design of work systems. So basically, a process selection refers to the decision on how you are going to produce goods and services in terms of how they are going to be organized, how to lay out facility, and what kind of process you're going to use to manufacture whatever you want to sell. Again, it could be a product or services. It is really important that if you are planning to put up a business, you need to think and decide what is going to be the process of how you're going to actually manufacture and create this product or service. And that is a process selection. So it has a major implication. A process selection has a major implications such as capacity planning. In a process selection, you need to evaluate all available production resources you have, like machinery, staffs, work centers, to see if the operation can meet your available resources. Second, layout of facility. When we say layout of facility, it simply means that it is the way a facility is arranged in order to maximize processes that are not only efficient but effective towards the overall organization goal. And we have here consideration to, to lay out a facility. First, we need to see if the design and layout allow for growth or change. Is there a chance that your company will experience significant growth? Could some other change come about that could influence the layout of your facility? In business, anything is possible. Make sure that same is true of your facility's layout. While making changes is costly and undertaking them shouldn't be taken lightly, your layout should be flexible enough to allow a redesign if the situations call for it. Second, does the layout contribute to employee satisfaction and morale? There is a numerous studies that link employee morale to productivity. So managers should take this point into consideration when designing the layout of their facilities. How can this be done? Paint the walls light colors, allow for windows and space, include a cafeteria and a gym. Some of the options may cost lots of money, but if it increase productivity in the long run, it is probably worth making the investment. Does the facility layout aid the business in meeting its production needs? Is there enough space and is it used efficiently? Have you allowed enough space for shipping and receiving? Can different areas of the business communicate effectively? Does the layout lend itself to promotional activities? So these are the consideration to in layouting facilities. So third implication of process selection is equipment choice. In a process selection, it involves equipment choice such as what machinery is needed for the operation of business, working tools, considering that the equipment makes sure to the good quality of product or service to be produced. And lastly, design of work systems. You also need to involve these in a process selection wherein examining what methods of doing work with an aim of finding the means of effective and efficient use of resources and setting up of standards of performance for the work being carried out. The systematic examination of work involves what is done and how it is done and as well as what is the standard time to do the work. So in our next slide, we can see the figure that the overview of work capacity planning and process selection fit into this system's design. Forecasting, product and service design, and technological consideration influence capacity planning and process selection, in which these two are interrelated and are often done together. These two in turn affect the choice of facilities, layout, and work design. Now let's move on to the next slide, wherein how does an organization approach processes selection? So we have two key consideration. It includes the capital intensity and process flexibility. Capital intensity, the mix of equipment and labor that will be used by the organization. So those plan on how we are going to produce goods and services, we should also need to highlight the labor and equipment used for the operation of the management. Process flexibility. The management should know how to deal with the outside factors like technology changes, service design, and volume changes. So these are the how does the organization come up to the process selection. And now we are going to discuss the two main factors that influence process selection. Process choice is demand driven, meaning the choice of what process to use in making goods and providing services is motivated or caused by economic demand. So we have here two primary questions that needed to bear in mind on process selection. First is the how much variety will the process need to be able to handle. Second, how much volume will the process need to be able to handle. But before that, let's define what is variety and volume. So when we say volume, it is required quantity of a product to satisfy. Ang ibig sabihin lang kung gaano kadami ang iproproduce at kung gaano kadalas ito i-produce. So ang tinutukoy natin dito is the product. So when we say variety, it relates the variety of goods or services to be produced. Basically, ang variety is kung ano-ano ang mga produkto at serbisyo na iproproduce sa isang business. So, these two, the volume and variety, is dito lamang iikot yung 5 process types in every business existing.
Okay, so now let's proceed to the process types. There are five basic process types. Number one is the job shop. Job shop is used when a low volume of high variety goods or services will be needed. Examples, tool and die shop producing one of a kind tools, veterinarian's office processing a variety of animals and a variety of injuries and diseases. So this type of manufacturing is highly flexible and able to produce a wide variety of goods. The production process is intermittent and adjusted for each project. Typical characteristics are general purpose equipment and highly skilled labor. The production volume can be as little as one product. For example, a one-of-a-kind customized machine for a food processing plant. Besides customized items, job shops are frequently used for prototyping. The high flexibility of this process is ideal for new product trials. Number two is the batch. A batch process is used to produce a moderate amount of fairly standardized goods. This type of production is quite flexible, although production lines are usually equipped for a certain product category. Like a job shop, the production process is intermittent. Processes might run per batch, after which they are slightly adjusted for the next batch. Process equipment is somewhat more standardized than a job shop, but still quite general. The production volume can range anywhere between a few hundred and a few thousand pieces. A batch manufacturing process is often used to test the market potential for a certain product before deciding on mass production. The third one is the repetitive. Repetitive processing is used to produce high-volume standardized goods. This form of production has low flexibility in terms of product variation. Process equipment is highly specialized, and production lines are specifically designed for a certain product. However, due to the high degree of standardization, unit costs are much lower than with batch production. Furthermore, output volumes can range from thousands to millions of pieces. Typical product examples for this type of process are automobile, computers, and TVs. The fourth one is the continuous. Continuous processing is used to process very large amounts of non-discrete items. This manufacturing method has almost zero flexibility. Production lines and equipment are specifically designed to process a certain item. For example, steel, sugar, and salt. Labor skills range from low to high depending on the complexity of the product. In general, this type of mass production requires long-term commitment and substantial investment in equipment and facilities layout. So the last one is the project. Project is used for work that is non-routine, non-repetitive activities directed toward a unique goal within a limit time frame. Examples here are putting on a play, consulting, making a motion picture, publishing a book, and building a dam. As you can see in the table, the four basic processing types has their own description, advantages, and disadvantages. So the first is job shop processing. This type is most useful to process a low volume of high variety goods. The second type is batch processing. This system is most beneficial to process a moderate volume of goods with a moderate variety. The third type is repetitive processing. This process is most appropriate for high volumes of standardized goods. The last type is continuous processing. This type can be best used to process very large volumes of non-discrete products. In practice, however, many factories have adopted hybrid forms extracted from these processes. It might be wise to consider the correlation between operation capabilities and market demand conditions. A mismatch could have adverse consequences for your organization. Now let's proceed to Activity 3, Exercise 1. Let's identify the following items accordingly, whether it is a job shop, batch, repetitive, continuous, or project. So number one, concerts is a batch. Number two, ice cream is a batch also. Number three, soft drinks is a batch also. Number four, dental clinic is a job shop. Number 5 and number 6, we have already discussed it earlier. It is a continuous. Number 7, movie theaters. It is a batch. Number 8, books. It is a batch. Number 9, television sets is a repetitive. Number 10, ticket collectors at sports events and concerts is also a repetitive. Number 11, airlines which carry plane loads of people from airport to airport is a batch. Number 12, public address announcement is a batch also. Number 13 and number 14 is a job shop, beauty salon and barber shop. Number 15, computers is a repetitive. Number 16, building a bridge is obviously a project. Number 17, tailoring or dressmaking business is a job shop. Number 18, launching a new product or service project. Number 19, classroom lecture is a batch. And lastly, radio and television programs is a batch.
Exercise 2, and the instruction is choose the best answer. Write the capital letter of your answer on the blank space provided. For question number 1, key aspects of the process selection challenge include blank and blank. The answer would be letter C, capital intensity and process flexibility. Again, when we say capital intensity, it is the mix of equipment and labor that will be used by the organization. And process flexibility means system can be adjusted to changes in processing requirements due to outside factors like technology, service design, and volume changes. For question number 2, process choice is blank driven. The answer is letter A. Process choice is demand driven because management need to understand the market for their work to be open to and respond to new opportunities. How? By means of ongoing conversations with the people. Like you need to study if all your activities and processes coordinated to the pool of demand. For question number 3, the key questions in the process selection task are, the answer is letter B. How much variety will be imposed on the process and what volume will the process need to operate? And as mentioned, variety and volume affect the process selection. It is needed to bear in mind these two questions. For question number 4, job shops tend to be blank while continuous processes tend to be. The answer is letter C. Job shops tend to be small scale and flexible because it is used usually by small company or business that makes specific product for one customer at a time. So it is in a small scale and needed to be flexible, means machines are easily added or substituted at dito din to pumapasok yung process flexibility. Continuous process tend to be large scale, usually it is used in large business and inflexible. For question number 5, the type of processing system which is used for highly standardized products is letter A, continuous. And now let's move on to activity 4, what I learned. And for question number 1, what is process selection? A process selection refers to the decision on how you are going to produce goods and services. For question number 2, what is variety? Variety is the diversity and complexity in the process due to different products and services to be produced. And lastly, what is volume? Volume is the quantity or capacity of a product to be produced. Activity 5, check for understanding. Process selection and capacity planning are needed into the system design. Forecasting, product and service design, and technological changes influence capacity planning and the process selection, in which these two are interrelated and are often done together. These two affect the choice of facilities and equipment, layout, and work designed to the operation of the management.